Welcome back to the Wicked Majesty channel. In this video, we're diving back into the spine-tingling horror story, The Stamp of Death. If you thought part 1 was scary, just wait until you see what's in store for part 2. Get ready to be on the edge of your seat as I uncover more terrifying occurrences that happen when a stamp Murder 22 appears on someone's arm. So sit back, grab your popcorn, and join me for another bone-chilling installment of The Stamp of Death on the Wicked Majesty channel. Murder 22. I took a few steps back and looked a few times. She warmly thanked me and stuffed the fruit inside the bag. As she closed the trunk, my eyes widened. "If it's okay with you, may I know how old you are?" I questioned, my gaze fixed on her arm. Her brows drew together as she came to a halt. 22, she said as she slammed the trunk shut it with a loud thump. I was left behind the car, my hands trembling. Only the sound of a honk prompted me to get out of the path. When her brake light switched on, she sped by and gaze fixed on the road. My heart was pounding. I raced to my car and tossed my one bag onto the back seat. Do I have to keep up with her? Is there enough time for me to warn her? I've never attempted to alter the stamp before. Her birthday might not be for another year, and she'll be okay till then. Perhaps she has some spare time. Maybe things will change. All of these emotions began to go through my brain. As we moved through traffic, I fell behind a little, trying to remember the numbers of her registration plate. In the meantime, my thoughts turned to serial killers. Grisly, gory. Highways have left people dead in vehicle trucks or ditches. Pain is unavoidable. We parked behind the university buildings in a parking area. As she parked, I drove past, making sure to park in an unnoticeable location at the end of the block. I sat in my car, watching out the back window. She exited the vehicle, retrieved the sack from the boot, and proceeded to the building. As I pushed open the door, my heart hammered. 1. Take a deep breath. 2. Take a deep breath, and then come to a complete stop. I sped up my pace to keep up with my heartbeat. Before turning the knob and entering through, the girl balanced one bag on her knee and unlocked the door 116. I huddled behind the darkness of the stairwell. I sunk to the ground as I heard the door close. I couldn't tell her what was about to happen. I was unable to obtain her name. I couldn't even chat with her without her noticing that I was following her. I wasn't able to accomplish anything. I remembered my sister, who was in the hospital bed. In the ambulance, I remembered Miss Brown. I remember Cody Anderson and the numerous other individuals I'd known who had died. This girl was about to leave this world. I couldn't just stand and watch this unfold. I couldn't leave her in the clutches of a ruthless murderer pleading for mercy. No, wasn't going to let her go through this. I returned to my car, got into the driver's seat, and took a deep breath. On the door, I pinned my phone number. What if she decides to leave town? What if she's simply dropping by to see a friend? What if she's abducted the moment she wakes up? What if? So many questions were racing around my head. I drove back to my house. The all-nighter had left my stomach churning. I called in sick to work, claiming to be unwell with food poisoning. The boss was not convinced, but he didn't have to be. The jerk lived to inflict agony. He couldn't possibly grasp what I was going through. Besides, I had a task to accomplish that was far more essential than arranging his dreaded monthly calendar. My father used to keep a gun by his bedside drawer. He kept it there in case of emergencies. I had never used a gun before in my life, but I took it from his drawer because I knew it would help if the situation demanded it. I put it in my coat pocket in case if I needed to draw it quickly. The next morning, as I walked out to my car, I covered my eyes from the brightness of the rising light. It was a lovely day. I got to the supermarket. A huge guy with alcohol poisoning 32 on his arm, restocking the shelves, stared down at me. To get the paper towels, I walked around him. The daytime clerk wouldn't die of an overdose like his nighttime counterpart. He lived to reach 90 and die peacefully in his sleep. He looked at me. He looked at my list of products, but he seemed uninterested. I also tossed a pack of gum into the conveyor line. That'll cost you $9.97. When I arrived at the university dorms, her car was nowhere to be found. Is she in any pain? Is she enrolled in a class? Is the killer still on the loose? What happened to her? She's presumably at class, given that it's Tuesday. But perhaps she isn't in class today. By the evening, I'm hoping she'll be back. I will wake up now and then scared that I've missed seeing her at home. Her place is always empty when I peek over. As the sunlight warms me to tiredness, I sit motionlessly and squint. I close my eyes. I woke up panicking. The time was 4:45. Is it possible that I missed it? Has she returned? I take a quick look around. Her automobile was parked. I breathed a sigh of relief. At that very least, she'd arrived safely at home. The sun would set at 7 p.m. according to my late night calculation. Perhaps she's completing her schoolwork or talking on the phone with her boyfriend. Do you know whether she has a boyfriend? Has she ever been in a relationship? Maybe she's recently begun dating someone and can't concentrate on her assignment because she's too happy. Maybe she'll contact her mother as well today. Has it been a while since they spoke? Or do they chat every day? So many thoughts and questions ran through my head as I sat there looking at the dorm window. It's almost sunset. From behind the stairwell, I noticed a blonde head appear. Stupid, I murmured myself. She's alone. Going out alone is such a bad idea. She strolled towards her car, her phone in her hand and a smile on her face. I paused for a moment. I got out of my car and opened the door. I caught up with her as she stood at the back of her car, holding the keys. She was startled as she gazed from her phone. She knew who I was. Wait, how'd you figure out where I live? She said, terrified. I extended my arm in front of my face at arm's length. I'm sorry. If you simply listen to me, I'll explain everything to you. What? Why are you here? What are you doing? You have to understand, I had to do this. This was the only way. What do you mean the only way? What's going on? I tried to get closer to her, but she kept walking backwards. She must have thought I was there to rob her or hurt her. She could see how terrified I was, and I guess that scared her too. As I would walk towards her, she would take a step back, and all of a sudden, she slipped and landed on her back. Her phone broke as she hit the asphalt. I rushed towards her to help her, but in doing so, I forgot there was a gun in my coat pocket. It fell through the ground and it fired by itself. I was unable to take a grasp of the situation. I'm sorry. And I cried as tears started to fall. As I pressed my face into her shoulder, my breaths come into grasp. My senses were filled with the scent of coconuts. I lurched toward my car, scooping her body into my arms. I slid the door open and forced her torso into the back seat while letting her arms dangle. I went to the trunk and got the paper towel and a piece of cloth. A damp paper towel was pushed on her chest hole. I couldn't get the blood off from her or my shirt. I placed the layers to her chest the best I could, but deep down I knew there was no point. Her tan skin began to fade. Her dark eyes were wide open and appeared to be looking above. I tucked the lifted sheet around her torso and drew the corner over her head. Her arm stamp was beginning to fade. I started to feel a burning sensation in my forearm. In bold black letters, I could see my stamp appear. Suicide 30. I realized at that moment there was nothing you could do to change the fate the stamp had chosen for you. Thank you for watching part 2 of Stamp of Death on the Wicked Majesty channel. I hope you enjoyed this spine-tingling tale as much as I did creating it. Stay tuned for more chilling stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for updates on my latest content. Tune in next week for a new horror story that will be sure to give you nightmares, called Demon Child. Until next time, sleep tight, don't let the shadows bite.